Let's do it. We are only 9 days away from Diplomacy's big dance. 28 players, 8 boards, but only one champion. These players know how to push the pieces, but it's not about how you play, it's also about who you play. And that is what we are here to find out today. Joining me is your host, Brian Pravel. Brian, tell us what we're here to do today.
Today, we are having our 2023 DBNI selection show. We are going to reveal the top 28 players who are competing in this year's DBNI. And then we are going to have a live board assignment where we are going to find out which boards we're going to end up. 4 boards we're filling today, and we'll get right to it. Zach, I'm going to start out just by reminding everyone about the format of the 2023 DBN Invitational. We're doing things a little bit differently this year. What we're doing is we're starting at the semifinal games, and the winners of the semifinal games will proceed to the championship game. The championship game will be consisting of not only the winners of the championship game, but the losers from the semifinal games will proceed to a second chance round. Those second chance games, the winners of those games will also proceed to the championship game. The bottom 3 seeds from the losers group of the semifinals will be eliminated. So players in seeds 28, 27, and 26 must win their semifinal rounds in order to proceed to the championship game. All other players, if they win, they proceed, and if they lose, they'll have a second chance. Then the winners of those will proceed to the championship game. Clear as mud, Zach?
Try not to need a second chance, Brian.
And we also, just to help everyone keep track of things, have built out a 2023 DBN Invitational Tournament bracket. So for those of you who would like, you can start sharpening your pencils. Once we reveal the boards, we're going to put up on the diplobn.com website a printable bracket. Players will be able to fill this out, take a picture, and we'll have a game that we're playing for score, just like March Madness, but it's February Fever for us, Zach.
The best show in town, Brian. February Fever is the new center of the competitive calendar.
What do you say we get to those board assignments?
It's about time.
All right. So coming up on screen, we're going to see all of our players that qualified and are in round 1. Coming in at 28 and 27, we're going to find out whether these players will go on to board 1 or board 2. Zach, I'll read out Chris Brand, and then you can read out Ben Kelman. So Chris Brand, of course, coming in at our 28th seed. His biggest events scores came this year from, I just had it, DixieCon, it looks like. And he came in with a total points value of enough to get him to point to 28. Let's find out where he's at.
Queuing the board assigner.
So on the diplobn.com website, you can go to diplobn.com/coinflip, and you will see that coin flip we're using. So if you want to check it out, make sure everything's on the up and up. So it looks like Chris Brand will be moving into board 1. That means that Ben Kelman will be moving to board 2. Ben Kelman coming to us from Michigan and has been a frequent participant in the DBNI.
Yeah,
Zach, what did you call
Ben Kelman had a nice little score at VDC and just clawed his way in. 27th is still a heartbeat. So congrats to Ben Kelman on making that. And the next pot, if you will, is Farron Jane and Morgante Pell, a couple of low-seeded underdogs. Probably nobody's scared of them. So we're going to flip for Farron, and then Morgante will go to whichever board Farron has not occupied. Coin coming onto the screen now, and not just if you want to test the fairness of the coin, but if you're just bored and looking to have a good time, this is a toy that you can play with on the DiploBN website whenever you want. And when you're at work, when you're at a funeral, pull up the coin, play around. So let's flip that coin. Farron Jane is on board 2. Board 2 for Farron Jane. Fantastic player. There's no one event that she has dominated. Just consistent results across. And Brian, it didn't take Morgante many tries to get into his spot.
No, not at all. Coming in with the big score at Weaselmoot is the main one that brought Morgante in. Now taking a look at Noam Brown. Noam Brown's big score that helped him get in was from whipping at the North American DipCon this year. And Noam, of course, famous for leading the team who is responsible for the Meta AI bot, Franz Brosef. And then we have Jason Bennett, one of the big competitors for Rookie of the Year. Jason's points came in from the Virtual Diplomacy League and I believe the Nexus Press League.
Big time finish at Tour of Britain as well.
Tour of Britain,
he was second or third on that.
Yeah. Absolutely. So let's flip the coin for Noam and Jason. We'll flip for Noam, who will be on board 2. All right. So that means that Jason Bennett will go to board 1, Noam Brown on board 2. Who do we got in the next one, Zach?
We have got Johnny Gillum and Karthik Kanath squaring off. Johnny Gillum exploded at the World Championships at Carnage, finishing 4th at that tournament. Karthik has had several good press results. He also showed out in the VWDC Summer Classic with a podium finish in 3rd place. Two players that are on the rise. Johnny Gillum, a little newer to the competitive circuit, and very much this was his breakout year, Brian. Let's see if he can break onto a favorable board with this coin flip. And here it comes now, flying gracefully through the air. 1 2 1 2. It will be board 1 for Gillum. That will leave Karthik Kanath as number 2, something he is accustomed to.
Yeah, and Karthik, his big points this year came from the VWDC Summer Classic, but he's had decent scores really across the board. VDC 2022, so strong results in virtual this season. Coming up next, we've got Katie Gray and Nicolas Sahuguet, the 11th and 10th seeds. We'll go ahead and flip that coin for Katie Gray. Katie's big win came this year, 78 points in total, coming for her win. I just cleared my browser at the VDCW Summer Classic, of course. So,
of course.
And looks like Katie is on board 1. Is that correct? Oh, not board 1. It is board 1.
Board 1 after all.
Called it. Just like my predictions all season. That puts Nicolas Sahuguet on board 2.
And congrats to Nicolas Sahuguet. Dominated the French language diplomacy league. Next pot up, it's going to be Jason Massbum and Josh Hennessy. Jason Massbum led the circuit in games played this season. 37 boards, 20 of those in person, a few of those at Cascadia last weekend, 17 virtually, most of those through the Virtual Diplomacy League. He had a pair of second-place finishes, one at the VDC and the other at the VWDC, so he likes those letters. And Josh Hennessy, one of the top rookies on the circuit, won Nexus Press League in dominating fashion, also put up a good show in the Virtual Summer Classic. Exciting to see what he does. We are going to flip for Massbum and see which board he will be cannonballing into. Let's move the coin. And it's going to move slowly, methodically, but no less lethally. It's going to be board 1 for Massbum, and that'll be number 2 for Josh Hennessy. A lot of board 1s on my flips, Brian.
You gotta get them all on one side to keep it easy for you.
Yep.
Counting's hard. Next up, we've got our number 4 seed and number 2 seed, Timothy Crosby, king of the Tour of Britain, second place in the regular season of Virtual Diplomacy League, one of the most consistent performers all season long. And what else needs to be said about number 2 seed Peter McNamara, the very first DBN Invitational champion, winner of the Calumet Cup. And in this season, unlike last season where he had to kind of struggle to make it to the top, he's got big wins at PoppyCon, EDC, and the Nexus Press League. So really good results for Mr. McNamara. Let's flip that coin and find out where they are going. Tim Crosby, board 1. That leaves Peter McNamara at board 2. So rounding out our first round, we've got board 1, Tim Crosby, Jason Massbaum, Katie Gray, Johnny Gillum, Jason Bennett, Morgante Pell, and Chris Brand. Who do we got on board 2, Zach?
Peter McNamara, Josh Hennessy, Nicolas Sahugay, Kartik Conniff, Noah Brown, Farron Jane, and Ben Kelman. And I don't know which one I'd want to be on less, Brian Bravel. I think I'm happy to be up here with you.
I think there's one thing we're going to know for sure. I don't think there's going to be a single board that is not full of sharks, as it should be. All right, let's take a look now at round 2, boards 3 and 4. As those are coming up on screen, Zach, what are you looking to see for our next rounds?
What I'm looking to see is who's going to be on board 1, who's going to be on board 2. You got the number 1 seed, Brandon Fogel, hovering there at the top, and he's going to get France, but he's also going to have to go through a lot of French players. Christophe Borja, Nicolas Taillet, Ruben Sanchez, Loic Borja. Is he going to be able to beat them with their own country, or is he going to maybe drop down in Paris method and try something else? Might depend on how this here board draw goes. Starting with the bottom of the bottom, the lowest pot, the ones who snuck in, 26 and 25, Loic Borja and Liam Stokes. And Loic Borja snuck in as an alternate, played 17 virtual boards, all in French language play. The bulk of his points coming from the French Diplomacy League. Liam Stokes, a little more active, playing 18 boards, mix of face-to-face and virtual. His biggest result coming at actually Cascadia, not just this last weekend, this weekend plus a year ago, because this last weekend was not factored into these standings. Let's flip the coin and see which one's going which way. Here comes the coin now in all of its glory. We're going to flip it. And it's board 2 for Borja. Liam Stokes will head on over to board 1.
That brings us to Ruben Sanchez and Greg Matthews. Ruben's big points came the very first qualifying event of the season, the CMFV, and kind of hung on and clawed in order to make it through to qualify for this year's DBNI. And Greg Matthews, better known as primarily an extended deadline player, got to meet Greg this weekend at Cascadia. Really good to meet Greg. He's kind of struggled in the virtual format historically a little bit, but he's a very talented player, one of the very best extended deadline. Excited to see him play again this season. So we've got coin flip for Ruben. Which board is Ruben going to? All right, board 2 for Ruben Sanchez. That puts Greg Matthews on board number 1.
Next up, Christopher Ward and Robert Schupa, a couple of our European players. Before we get to them, let's talk about when these boards are even going to happen. Semifinal round 1 is going to begin on Friday, February 17th, 6 p.m. Eastern Time in the United States. Round 2 is going to kick off the next morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Time on Saturday, February 18th, followed by the second chance game starting that very evening, 6 p.m. Eastern on February 18th. And the final the final second chance game the next morning, Sunday, February 19th at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We will have a DBN broadcast, two of them. One on Saturday, that's Saturday the 18th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. The second one covering rounds 3 and 4, the first chance boards, on February 19th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So here's a couple of players. Christopher Ward and Robert Shoup had some big results, kind of shooting stars, didn't get a ton of results. Robert Shoup parachuted into Boston and won the Boston Massacre, his first face-to-face tournament ever. Christopher Ward led the SpireCon hosting committee and came second place at that event, a very solid result for Ward. And we're going to see if he can get a good result on this coin. We got 2 French players in board 2, and who will join them? Let's flip the coin. This is for Ward, and he will slowly work his way to board 2, joining Ruben and Loic. Robert Shoup will head left, joining Greg Matthews and Liam Stokes on board 1.
And
Brian,
Nicolas Taillet is widely regarded as one of the more skilled players in all of virtual diplomacy. Exploded onto the scene last season, winning the Virtual Diplomacy League, this year winning the regular season, I believe, but did not quite pull it off in the championship, losing to Brandon Fogel. But that was enough points to get Nicolas a number 14 seed. Let's go ahead and flip that coin for Nicolas. So it looks like Nicolas will go to board 1. That puts Andrei Gribikov on board 2. Andrei's points coming at the very, very last qualifying event of our season from the Nexus Press League. Would not have qualified without it, but did so well in that event. He got up to number 13.
Press matters. Can't forget about Press. Coming in seeds 12 and 8, it's Steve Personini and Christophe Borgia, a couple of European tournament winners. Steve Personini winning French language tournament, the first one of the year, in fact, the CMFV, and Christophe Borgia winning the European Diplomacy Championship, won the whole continent, and he's going to use that experience in a round 2 with primarily European players. Let's bring up the coin and flip it for Steve. Flip. Good flip. Good hard flip for Steve, and he's going to get board 2. Board 2 for Steve Personini. Brian Preble, the pot is yours.
Next up, we have Bradley Grace, Rookie of the Year runner-up, and Ed Sullivan, Lawyer of the Year runner-up. So coming in at 7, Bradley Grace got his points from some big wins, big points at the Nexus Press League and at SpireCon. And Ed Sullivan had pretty consistent results across the season. You kind of have to score up that high, but his big points came from coming in first place at the Nexus Season 7 Extended Deadline event. So let's flip the coin for Bradley and Ed. Bradley Grace, board 2. Ed Sullivan, board 1. These boards are shaping up to be deadly. Take us away with our last reveal, Zach.
Speaking of deadly, here's a couple of guys who maybe wish they could play on a board together to share the target, which will be fully on their backs, whichever board they go to. Riaz Virani, how about winning the last 2 tournaments that you participated in the VDC, and then turning around and winning Cascadia just last weekend, already basically clinching his spot in next year's tournament. Brandon Fogel, the Virtual Diplomacy League champion in dominating fashion, and a guy who seems to top every single board he's on. Let's flip the coin and see who's going to terrorize which board. A slow flip. My thumb is tired. Brian, you know how that is. Riaz is going to board 2, Brandon to board 1.
So, Zach, that leaves us board 1, Brandon Fogel, Ed Sullivan, Christopher Borgia, Nicolas Taillet, Robert Shoup, Greg Matthews, and Liam Stokes.
Or 2, Riaz Virani, Bradley Grace, Steve Personini, Andre Gribakov, Christopher Ward, Ruben Sanchez, and Luis Borja.
Zach, we have got some fantastic talent in this year's DBN Invitational. I cannot wait to watch these games. Just a reminder, you too can join and watch. Rounds 1 and 2 will be covered Saturday, February 18th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Rounds 3 and 4 will be covered Sunday, February 19th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
That's when they start. That's when it happens. It's going to be good games, a lot of big names, all stuffed together on a board, Brian. I can't wait.
All right. Well, Zach, thank you for helping out with this selection show, and a special shout out to Kevin O'Kelly, whose thumb has to be tired from clicking all of those virtual coin flips. Thank you all, and a shout out to the whole DBN crew who behind the scenes is getting ready. We're going to put on one heck of a show. Hope you all join us and see us there soon. Have a great night.